So an interesting thing got brought up not too long ago involving why people would remain in a religious cult or a cult like AA for a long period of time, and if in fact they were in a cult for a long period of time, it's the same kind of thing that I think that everybody feels on some level when you read about something like when Waco happened in the early 1990s, or when you hear about something like Jim Jones or one of those types of situations. There's a part of a part of us, and it's not necessarily a very likable part, but there's a part of you that reacts to a situation like that, and you think to yourself, well, I'd never fall for something like that. How the hell would people get sucked into something like that? Or you hear about some scam, or you hear about some scheme or something that people get rooked into, and you think to yourself, well, I'd never find myself in a situation like that, because I can't remember the exact philosopher who quoted that people in general tend to have a very high opinion of themselves. Even people like with so-called inferiority complexes that AA blabbers about. I don't even know if that's even a real thing or not. They'll say you have a superiority complex with an inferior ego or some shit like that in their cult speak. But it was brought up to me not too long ago. You stayed in the cult for a long time, and you're just now realizing it's toxic. It's not exactly how it works, and it's kind of going to be the topic of this video. I mean, you have a lot of trepidation in your own heart about a situation that you've gotten into, and you kind of don't know how to get out. It was like kind of like French filmmaker Claude Chabrol one time. He said he liked to explore how people would casually slip into criminal behavior or criminal activities, but it's not on the topic of this video. What I thought I would do with this one is something that I've not usually done before. I thought I would give us a hypothetical guy, and I would follow this hypothetical guy along as an example, and then at the end, if you identify with our hypothetical guy, great. You got a guy. I'm going to have to put him in the early 2000s because there was no YouTube, there was no social media on any kind of level like what we got right now. There was no mass communication. You had a few you had the anonymous chat type things. I don't know if anybody ever saw that horror movie. Was it Strangeland or something like that? The rock and roll guy D. Snyder of Twisted Sister, he plays this creepy weirdo who's luring people online, and of course, for the time period of that it was made, around 98, 99, something like that, there was this big deal about, you can talk to people on the computer and be whoever you want to be. That's the kind of internet I'm placing our hypothetical guy in. Okay, he's at a time period, late 90s, early 2000s, before mass information, before the ability to do some of the things that we enjoy today, 22 some odd years later. But he's an ordinary guy, this hypothetical guy. He has a regular job. He has a wife that he comes home to. He has strained relationships with his own family. There's no real reason to go into a lot of detail about it. There is tension in his life, but not a lot. Not anything really out of the ordinary. Not nothing that would be disturbing or anything that would be any different than most average, ordinary people. So our hypothetical guy is average, ordinary dude with a job, with a situation, fairly young still, kind of naive in some ways, even though he doesn't really think he is. That's one curse that all young people have, right? They think they're street smart and wise to the ways of the world, and they get a little bit older, and sometimes they find out they weren't so wise after all. But anyway, back to our hypothetical guy. So our hypothetical guy, he's got friends, just a few here and there that they drink on weekends, they have a few parties, they laugh, they play music, they go to clubs, they do certain things together. He doesn't have much of a problem really in the way of drinking. I mean, he likes to drink heavy sometimes, he likes to drink on the weekends, he likes to do those kinds of things, but nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary. But our hypothetical guy, he has a background with a particular type of situation and an environment that he grew up in where drinking was kind of related to criminal behavior. Drinking is an immoral thing. It's a bad thing. Only losers drink, and he's oftentimes compared to the worst people on earth because he likes to drink. He gets a lot of lectures about this drinking. He gets a lot of ugly sideways glances from his own family members about this drinking, but really drinking is not a major problem in his life. So our hypothetical guy uh, notices certain things that happen in his life, certain tensions, certain things that bother him, certain things that are going on, unexpected problems, whatever it is. And he finds himself noticing that he's kind of getting drunk every weekend, but usually when he's getting drunk every weekend, it's a festive party situation. It's one of the things him and his friends like to do on a lot of occasions. It's the weekend, we've worked all week, it's time to party, it's time to cut loose, it's time to have a lot of fun. It's not a big deal with our hypothetical guy. Okay? So our hypothetical guy starts having other difficulties in his life. Like maybe he's stuck in a job he doesn't like. Like maybe he's working in a printing factory somewhere and he's saying to himself, I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm about 23, 24 years old right now, and this is not kind of the future I was planning on, but he doesn't really seem to have a whole lot of options to bounce off of other people. He has a few friends here and there that, they're kind of all in the same boat. Hey, it is what it is kind of situation. So our hypothetical guy on a Monday evening, he decides, something, I think a drink would make me feel pretty good this evening. So he stops and he has him a drink. Nothing really major happens. It's just a drink, right? It's a couple of drinks. Well, let's just be honest. It's maybe 2 or 3 drinks, but it's still not a big deal. He didn't get plastered. He got up the next morning. He went to work. Nothing really bad happened as a result of this. So the Tuesday thing rolls around and he's kind of feeling like, well, that wasn't so bad last night. I'm still under a lot of stress. Once I can get these factors out of my life, I'll fix them. But I'm going to have a drink today. It makes me feel better. I don't normally drink on Monday evening, but I drank Monday evening and I had a better evening than I did, last Monday evening. So he starts to slip into a bit of a pattern. Not a major pattern, not a problem with our hypothetical guy. Our hypothetical guy is still doing pretty good in life. Stops on the way home every evening, drinks him a few, comes home, does his usual home routine stuff, gets up, goes to work, lives for the Friday or lives for the Saturday. In this hypothetical guy's case, he works Sunday through Thursday, so Friday and Saturday are his days to really cut loose. But then he begins to notice that there's a lot going on in his life. Our hypothetical guy, I'm not going to give a lot of examples for our hypothetical guy, but he's got pressures. He's got strains. He's in the adult world now, and he kind of notices he's starting to drink a little bit more in the evening than he was normally drinking in the evening when he started out this habit of daily drinking. It's not a big deal, though. It's not like he's getting plastered drunk every night or anything like that, So we're going to flash forward a little bit with our hypothetical guy, and a couple of months is going to go by, and he's kind of having a few mornings where he's a little nervous about things. He's like, I kind of got a little bit too drunk last night. I didn't intend to I kind of got drunk last night. I didn't really mean to get drunk on a weeknight because I still got to get up at 5 a.m. and go through all the motions of getting to work on time and all that other thing, and I'm not feeling worth a shit now this morning. But it's not a big deal, It was a slip. It won't happen again. The internal pressures in our hypothetical guy's life keep mounting and they keep piling up and all this stuff keeps happening to him. So he notices he's drinking a little bit more heavily every evening now. And he's noticing there's a little bit more strain in his personal life. He's starting to get blowback from his family. He's starting to get blowback from his home. He's starting to get told, your drinking's kind of bothering us a little bit. Now, our hypothetical guy comes to a place of awareness and he says, I am drinking a little bit too much. Maybe I need to cut back a little bit, but I'm going to drink a little tonight anyway. But then he ends up noticing that whether he likes it or not, during the day he's an anxiety-ridden mess because he's got home problems, he's got work problems, he's got other problems. He doesn't have anybody he can really talk to about these problems. So he notices he's starting to drink a little bit more every night. He's starting to kind of get drunk every night. He doesn't really know what to do at this point because when he talks to his friends tell him, hey, everybody drinks a little here and there. Just, cut back on it or something if it's bothering you. But the home life pressures are mounting up on our hypothetical guy. And then the work pressures, they're hyping up too on our hypothetical guy. So he wakes up one morning and he's had way too much to drink the night before. And he's kind of got a shake in his hands, and he's just not feeling good. He's not really in a severe alcohol dependency state as of yet, but he's not feeling good. So he takes him a few drinks and goes to work. And just like that, the work day is actually a very productive and cool day. He got to work in the morning with a bit of a buzz. He walked a little bit better and a little bit brighter, and even coworkers noticed he was doing better. So our hypothetical guy is taking a few swigs in the morning before work starts. But a hypothetical guy also knows he's starting to develop a bit of a problem. It's a problem that's starting to mount and is starting to get out of control, and things are getting worse. Now, for the purposes of keeping this video short and sweet, I'm going to do a fast forward button here, but I'm going to fast forward our hypothetical guy a couple of more years into the future, maybe even 3 or 4 more years in the future. Now he's got a serious problem, and even worse, in his home life and in his life around him, everybody is on to him. They're pointing fingers at him. They're cursing at him. They're treating him like garbage. They're telling him, get it together, you fucking loser. Why don't you do something and get it together, you fucking loser? Now our guy wants to get it together. He wants to do something. He wants to do something better. But hey, he's miserable. He's isolated. He's alone. So there's only one thing he knows how to do. He knows how to drink. So he drinks. One day our hypothetical guy goes on a bad bender. Doesn't go to jail. Nothing bad happens to him. Nothing terrible. But he goes on a bender. And now everybody's really on his ass. And now people are threatening. Now he's getting divorce papers. And now he's getting threats of divorce papers. And he's told, you need to get help for your problem. So the hypothetical guy at this point, kind of sad, kind of down, kind of depressed, suicidal, miserable, says, I know. I got to have help here. I can't keep doing this, right? He goes to an AA meeting. For the first time in our hypothetical guy's life, after a couple of 2-3 years going by, he says, damn, these people all seem to understand me. These people seem to understand what I'm feeling. These people seem to understand what I'm going through. These people are like me. They drink heavy, and they got out of control with it. They figured out a way to solve their life problems. I'm home. I finally got what I've been looking for. Because a lot of my friends ain't talking to me much these days because I've turned into too much of a heavy drinker and a dependent drinker. So, our guy goes to some meetings, and all of a sudden he notices things when he turns on the television, when he reads newspaper articles, when he does other things. All of a sudden, everybody, like in the newspaper article he reads, he's like, more and more Americans are turning to Alcoholics Anonymous for their problems. He turns on a TV show, his favorite TV series, and guess what? One of his favorite TV characters is in AA. He's thinking to himself, hey, I'm with my people now, right? I figured it all out. I mean, this is my problem all along in life. This is how I whip my drinking problem. I just stop drinking and I make friends and, everything is great. But then our guy gets to noticing things. He begins to notice there's things in the meeting he doesn't agree with. And it kind of starts to bother him. And worse, our hypothetical guy, he's starting to kind of realize, life is pretty cool and everything without a drink. Nobody's giving him a hard time to go anymore, but goddamn, a nice drink would do good right now. I mean, it's just a drink, just to relax. Nothing terrible is going to happen as a result. But he doesn't say anything. He keeps his head down. He lets everybody tell him what he needs to do and what he needs to think about and what he needs to, he's playing along. He's playing the game. Somewhere along the way, our hypothetical guy is starting to really want to just have him a few drinks. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing bad happening to him. But he says, nobody's home this weekend. I think if I get me if I have me a couple of shots of scotch, ain't nothing gonna happen. So he goes home one weekend and he takes a couple of shots of scotch when nobody's around, and lo and behold, it's almost like greeting an old friend again. He's like, hey buddy, where you been? I've been missing you. Listens to a few of his favorite songs from the 90s, no less, some grunge songs. Listens to some of his 80s hair band music. He kind of feels pretty good, but nothing bad happened. But now he's thinking to himself, you know what? I fucked up. If anybody knew what I just did, they'd be pissed. They'd be upset. They'd be on my ass. They'd be cursing me. They'd be blah, 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 just like the old days all over again. Well, our hypothetical guy at this point says to himself, you know what? I'm just not going to tell anybody about this. Nothing bad happened. Why tell anybody about it? I haven't really done anything wrong. But then our hypothetical guy is going to meetings, and now he's not saying anything at all, even though he never really said a lot in the meetings to begin with. But now when people are telling him, hey, we're glad you're here. We're glad you came to the meeting tonight. It's cool to see you hanging around. Now our hypothetical guy feels like shit deep down inside. Because he knows he's not an honest guy, or otherwise he wouldn't have done what he did. He let everybody down, but he can't really say nothing about it. I mean, what if nobody knows, right? Now our hypothetical guy is eat up inside. He's twisting around in circles and knots. He's in pain and agony. And he thinks to himself, damn, I'm not a good guy anymore, am I? I'm not a good person. I can't even fit in with my people anymore because I'm not telling them the truth. And then our hypothetical guy just can't take it anymore. He even watches a movie one weekend when he's off, and he sees a murderer trying to cover up his tracks, and he thinks to himself, holy shit, I'm just like that murderer. That's what kind of person I am. I'm a bad person. He goes to the meeting and he tells the truth. Boom. All his friends are suddenly not too happy with him. Now worse, he's got to do the one thing that he really needs to do, which is be honest. So he goes home and he tells his family. Oh, was that a bad move to make? Now his family is regarding him with all that utmost suspicion again. Now every time he's 5 minutes late getting home, he's accused of drinking. Now every time he has to work overtime, he's accused of drinking. When he goes to a meeting, he's accused of not going to a meeting but drinking. His meeting people suddenly don't like him as much anymore. And he thinks to himself, well, shit, I just got to clean my act up and get sober and everything will fall back in place. But it doesn't kind of work like that for our hypothetical guy. Our hypothetical guy is worried now. He's thinking to himself, you know, I'm doing what they're telling me in the meetings, but the meetings aren't helping. What do I do? What am I doing here? What's happening to me as a person that's making me such a loser, such a lowlife that I can't clean my act up? Why is it I'm still thinking about drinking after all this time? So he starts drinking again. This time it's real bad for our hypothetical guy. Our hypothetical guy is now really looked down on by everybody. And because he told the truth, I had a few drinks last night. They really come on to him real heavy. Now our hypothetical guy is in a bad quandary. You see, our hypothetical guy knows that he wants to quit drinking, but he doesn't know how to quit drinking. He goes to the AA meeting, he tells everybody what's going on. He's told he's dishonest. He's told he's immoral. He's told he is in denial. He's told he's a selfish prick that doesn't care about nobody but himself. Our hypothetical guy starts to break down a little bit inside. He thinks he's the worst human being on earth. He thinks he's an outcast of the world. He thinks he's a piece of shit and everybody would be happier if he was dead. Now our hypothetical guy only returns to the one good friend that he's always had his whole entire life that never let him down, his liquor. And our hypothetical guy starts to destructively drink. And then the next thing you know, our hypothetical guy is getting DUIs. He never had a DUI in his life. Now our hypothetical guy is losing jobs. Our hypothetical guy's entire world is crumbling. Our hypothetical guy goes and talks to experts. Our hypothetical guy goes and talks to doctors. Our hypothetical guy goes everywhere and anywhere for help. And he says, look, I got a drinking problem. It's fucking me up. I want to quit. But I want to drink. I can't help it. What do I do here? And everybody, the doctors, the shrinks or the psychiatrists, everybody and their brother all tells him the same thing. You got to go to AA. You got to get honest. You got to do a 4-step. Our guy goes back to AA again. Now he's despondent. Nobody in AA likes him. Nobody in AA wants anything to do with him. Worse, he's starting to notice things in AA that don't make sense. He's starting to notice that when someone relapses and dies in AA, they're saying, some have to die so that others can live. He notices a kind of cruelty among these people that he's never seen before. But worse, he notices a lot of these people ain't practicing what they're preaching. And he's thinking, well, hell, my life is fucked up. There's got to be some way to stop. Where do I go? A hypothetical guy calls around. He calls his friends, his old friends. His old friends say, well, you got to go to AA or something. You got to go maybe to treatment. I don't know what the fuck to do, you know. His family's just on to him. You're a loser. You're a failure. You're a fucking drunk. You're a lowlife. You're a nobody. You're shit. Our hypothetical guy's family tosses him to the side. Our hypothetical guy ends up in a mental hospital after he tries to kill himself. Our hypothetical guy is told he's just a terrible human being and he has to go back to AA meetings to clean his act up. And then our hypothetical guy, the next thing you know, 11 fucking years has passed and he suddenly begins to wonder if he hasn't been duped the entire time. And maybe the answer to quitting drinking lies within himself. Our hypothetical guy is a prime example of how somebody gets stuck in a cult for a very long period of time. Our hypothetical guy, who has pressure from the outside world telling him AA is the only thing that works, is how people get stuck in the cult for a long time. If you're anything like the hypothetical guy, or if you've got a story like this hypothetical guy that's actually not a hypothetical guy at all, it's yours truly, chime in the comments and let me know. Until next time.